Good morning. Today's our last video for chapter 4. We're going to be talking about dividing fractions. So there's a couple of rules we need to know for dividing fractions. The big thing is that there's a little acronym we use is keep, change, flip. So KCF. Yes, I know it's not Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. We're just going to have to do the chicken before the fried. So we are going to keep, change, flip, and then as always we need to simplify. So this is our acronym we use for dividing fractions. So let's just go ahead and go through some examples. The first two we're going to talk about is dividing whole numbers into fractions. So our first one is 4 divided by 5/9. Okay, so the first step is to keep our first number. This isn't a fraction, but we know that any whole number over 1 is a fraction. So I'm just going to keep my 4 and put it over 1. The change is referring to the symbol. Instead of dividing, we're going to multiply. So I'm going to change that out. The last piece is flip. So writing the reciprocal of the second number in the equation. So instead of writing 5/9, we're going to write 9/5. As always, I'm going to see if I can simplify. So I'm always going to look cross ways to see if I can simplify. And in this case, I cannot simplify 4 and 5, and I cannot simplify 9 and 1. So instead, I'm just going to multiply across. 4 times 9 is 36, and 1 times 5 is 5. Obviously, this is an improper fraction, so we need to make it into a mixed number. So I'm just going to say, all right, 5 goes into 36 7 whole times. I have 1 left over, and I always put it over my denominator of 5. So as you can see, once we set up our problem as a multiplication problem, it's just like the last video and just solving multiplying fractions. So let's try another whole number division problem. All right, so let's try 10 divided by 5/6. So I'm going to go kind of slow so this way you can set up your problem and see if you can get ahead of me on this. All right, so I'm going to be thinking about my acronym of KCFS. So keep my first number. I know when there's a whole number, I'm going to put it over 1. I'm going to change my symbol, and then I'm going to write the reciprocal. I'm going to flip. As always, I'm going to try to simplify within my problem because then I'm dealing with smaller numbers versus waiting until after I've multiplied the two numbers. So I definitely can see that 5 and 10, I can simplify both of those numbers by 5. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 10 two times. And now I can't simplify my 6 and 1, so I'm just going to go ahead and multiply across. 2 times 6 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. Now we're back to having a number over 1, which makes it a whole number of 12. So 10 divided into 5/6 is 12. All right, so let's change it up just a little bit. Instead of doing whole numbers, let's do fractions and fractions and see what happens. So our first problem is 1/4 divided by 3/5. Okay, so we're just going to use that acronym again. Keep, change my symbol out, and flip it over. See if I can simplify. In this case, I cannot, so I'm just going to multiply across. 5/12. As always, I'm going to just try to make sure that this is in simplest form, and in this case, it is in simplest form. So that would be my answer, is 5/12. All right, the next one I'm going to go a little slower to give you a head start. So we'll do 7/4 divided by 7/8. So I'll give you a chance to go ahead and write this problem down and see if you can begin to do our acronym of keep, change, flip, and always simplify. And don't forget, you can always pause my video too. All right, so 7/4 I'm going to keep, change my symbol, flip it over. I'm going to see if I can simplify, and in this case I am seeing both ways that I can cross simplify. So 7 and 7 I can simplify down to 1 because 7 goes into both of those numbers. And then here I can simplify by 4, so 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 two times. Definitely can't simplify any more than that. So 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. Again, whole number as the answer of 2. All right, the big thing and always making sure is that A lot of students make the mistake of changing their symbol, but then they just keep that second number. And if you keep that second number, you're always going to get the wrong answer. You always have to write that reciprocal, that flipped. All right, so now into the harder problems, the mixed numbers. Let me get some problem written up here. So we have 3 3/5 divided by 1 4/5. If you remember my last video with multiplying mixed numbers, we have to change them into improper fractions. This doesn't change when we start to divide. So remember that you multiply first and then you add. So I'd have 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18 over 5. And then this is where a lot of students, again, make the mistakes. They're going to change this, but then what they're going to do is they're going to figure out this improper fraction, so they're always going to forget to flip. So what I always like to do is just do my improper fraction up here. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9, so it would be 9/5. And then I'm just going to flip it. So it would be 5 over 9. Again, I'm going to try to simplify. So my 5 can go into 5 one time. 5 can go into 5 one time. 9 goes into 9 one time, and 9 goes into 18 two times. And again, I would end up with 2 over 1, or 2 as my answer. All right, so we're going to do one last problem, and hopefully this makes sense to you. And like I said, always with these improper fractions is making sure you flip that second number, because we always forget to do that. It's just out of habit. All right, so 2 1/6. So 8 3/4 divided by 2 1/6. Okay, so the first thing, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this into an improper fraction. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 6. Now change this one. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3 is 35 over 4. Change my symbol. I already have my improper fraction, so I'll just flip it. See if I can simplify. In this case, I can simplify my 4 and simplify my 6. So now I'll just have to figure out what is 35 times 3. Don't know that one in my head. So I have 15, so I have 105. And then I have 26 at the bottom. So now I need to figure out how many times 26 goes into 105. So let's just try 4, because I know if I do 5, I'm going to go over. So I'm going to try 4. So that would be 24. And actually I get 104. So 26 goes into 105 4 whole times. I'll have 1 left over, and I put it back over my denominator. So 4 1/26 is my answer. Hopefully this video helps you a little bit. Remember, we have a test next week. Study, study, study. Make a note card, note card, note card. And we'll review for a couple of days next week to help you be prepared for this test. Any questions, always contact me. Have a great night.